When I was a child, I used to visit my Aunt Elsa every month. She resided in an old Victorian house in the middle of the woods in Washington. I still remember the first time I was taken there. I saw the tall steeple, and its shadow seemed to envelop us as we approached. My Aunt Elsa wasn't much older than my father, who was in his late 30s, but still, she looked much older. She had traveled all around the world, and very often, she would delight me with stories she had experienced abroad. She discussed her camping experience in the Sahara and her Arctic boat trip. She was a bit eccentric, it's true, but my aunt was one of the most remarkable women I knew. She was the kind of person who would give away her last penny, even if it meant she wouldn't have enough to eat. She always talked about the people she had met and the happiness she felt discovering their culture. I loved when she talked to me about that when we were fishing by the river. She loved fishing. My aunt always advised me to empathize with others and consider different perspectives. She was a good woman. Despite everything, I still have immense respect for her. Because there's one night with her that I will never forget. I was 8 years old at the time. She had asked me to help her. To work on her old Jeep. The sun was just above the mountain tops, and it cast an orange atmosphere all around us. My Aunt Elsa sent me to bed. Since we had to wake up early the next day, she wanted us to go fishing one last time before I returned home. As I pulled the covers to keep myself warm, I heard a small sound coming from outside. It piqued my curiosity. So I jumped out of my bed and quietly went down the stairs. The curtains were drawn, which allowed me to see Aunt Elsa sitting on the edge of the porch. She looked gloomy and was breathing heavily as she stared at the edge of the woods. That's when I noticed she was holding a rifle in her right hand. The setting sun's rays reflected off it. To her left, there was a small plastic bowl filled with some kind of red mush. Everything seemed in place when I looked outside. The Jeep, the big rock near the trees where Elsa always let me play, and the mountains in the background. But something caught my eye. It was the shed. It was just to the right of the house. It was a very poorly built shed that my Aunt Elsa always kept locked and padlocked with several chains. She always told me I was forbidden to go there. And when I asked her why, she told me it was full of tools that could hurt me. I remember it like it was yesterday, because it was one of the rare times my Aunt Elsa had been strict with me. But now the shed was wide open, the sun had finally disappeared, which had plunged us into semi-darkness. My Aunt Elsa looked at her watch, then kept looking around her. Some movement in the bushes caught our attention. Aunt Elsa gripped her rifle tighter. And a white shape emerged from the woods, trotting slowly toward us like a wounded deer. It was more than 2 meters tall, and its limbs stretched and moved strangely as it advanced. Its body was of a macabre paleness, and seemed to be made of a slimy gelatin-like substance. The creature's human-like eyes moved strangely in all directions, until they stopped to stare at my aunt. All of a sudden, the creature revealed a row of teeth that were particularly human and partially animal. Saliva then started to drip from its mouth as my Aunt Elsa placed the small plastic bucket in front of the beast. For a moment, it almost looked like a second head had come out of the creature's body and plunged headfirst into the bucket, to gulp down all of the red molasses. After that, the creature just stood there in front of my aunt, as if it was waiting for something else. Then, I heard my Aunt Elsa say,
"Come on, what are you waiting for? Get out of here."
But the creature kept staring at her.
"I already told you, I'm starting to run out of solutions. Do you think it's easy to find things for you to eat? I had to kill a poor dog to give you that, you sicko."
His grotesque white teeth are gone. Then, I felt like his face was showing displeasure. The thing moved closer to my aunt, who now looked twice as small as the creature. I could see her hands trembling as she raised her rifle toward the beast. So she cocked her rifle, and a loud clicking sound was heard. My aunt spoke, her voice trembling.
"Get out of there, go on."
The beast backed away a little at her act of defiance, but its eyes remained fixed on my aunt. The creature's mouth then twisted into a rictus of anger. Its head seemed to detach from its body, coming within centimeters of my aunt's face. The creature had come so close that, even from where I was, I could see the organs beneath its skin, horribly translucent. The organs seemed to move randomly within the creature, with no apparent effect on it. Then, strangely, the thing turned around and left. I watched it disappear into the bushes, while its limbs kept moving in all directions. My aunt stood there for a moment. She gazed toward the horizon like a statue, the wind blowing through her hair. I saw her collapse on the porch, head in hands. Then she started to cry. I moved away from the window, unsure of what I should think. I quietly went back upstairs and went back to bed. As I stared at the ceiling, I noticed movement from my window in my peripheral vision. I turned and immediately froze. She was there, the creature. She was staring at me. She almost looked like she was floating in the air, and she was using her arm to scratch the window. I wanted to scream, but I felt like every muscle in my body was paralyzed. Her mouth, contorted into an evil grin, oozed a slimy substance against my window. I felt like I lost my breath when I saw a second mouth appear. A human tongue emerged from it and began licking the window, while the beast looked like it was laughing. As I tried to regain my composure, I realized what the beast was doing was trying to open the window. And just as I got up to try to stop it, my aunt opened the door with all her strength. She saw the creature, she raised her rifle, then she fired. Pieces of glass and a strange substance flew into my room as I pulled the blanket over my head. Then I heard another gunshot ring out. And I felt my sheet getting wetter and wetter, and suddenly I felt something grab me. I screamed, but very quickly. I realized my aunt was holding me, crying. She had thrown her rifle on the ground and told me she was sorry, and that she should never have brought him here. I looked toward the window and saw that the creature was no longer there. When my father came to get me the next day, my Aunt Elsa took him aside a little. She whispered something to him. My father never told me what she had said to him, even on his deathbed. And I had never gone back to my Aunt Elsa since. Never, and I quietly went on with my life. When I was old enough, I moved out, I found a girlfriend, and I started going to college. I wasn't sure what to make of my experience and convinced myself it was just a bad dream. But one day, when I was with my mother at a family dinner, someone mentioned my aunt. And when I asked if she was okay, my mother answered me, without beating around the bush, that she was dead. So I questioned her, and she finally explained to me that my Aunt Elsa had died under strange circumstances. About a year after I saw her, curious, I decided to do a little investigation of my own. I went to the local police station and managed to charm the receptionist into letting me look through the files. And what I found was strange. The police report said that my aunt's house showed signs of a break-in. But strangely, it seems she had died from a wound she had inflicted on herself. To be precise, a gunshot wound. Other than that, I didn't find much else about her death. So, I decided to go straight to the source. I had to go check her house. The road was completely run down. There were big rocks and bushes that forced me to leave my car and continue on foot. The house was just as gloomy, but graffiti and remnants of chipped paint covered the exterior walls. I forced the door open and looked around for a few hours. I didn't find anything except cobwebs and dust. But all of a sudden, while I was searching in my aunt's room, I tripped over a broken floorboard. Luckily, I didn't fall, and I knelt down to lift the floorboard. There was a space underneath, filled with a pile of faded paper. I reached my hand inside, and under my fingers, I felt a small leather book. Inside, there were several newspaper articles cut out and pasted in. Most of them dated from after my last visit to my aunt, and all the articles, without exception, were about missing children. Children had vanished from nearby towns. Someone or something had broken into their homes during the night and had kidnapped them. The articles said there was really no clue as to what had happened to the children, except for a slimy substance that had been found in their rooms. I was really disturbed by all of this, and I hurried to gather my things and rushed out of the house. The sun had just disappeared behind the trees, bathing the area in front of the house in an amber light. As I started to walk toward my car, I saw something move in the bushes. At first, I thought it was a coyote or a fox, but I got goosebumps when I saw what it really was. A huge creature, about 8 feet tall, had just appeared from behind the bushes. Its limbs moved like those of a spider, and because of that, the thing crawled toward me. A kind of head then emerged from the thing, and I saw perfectly white teeth appear, to create a wicked smile. Lowering my eyes to view its body, I saw that the creature was attached to a kind of long tentacle that seemed to come from deep within the woods. I could see something under its translucent skin, something strangely human. I tried to tell myself that the thing under its skin wasn't moving. I also tried to forget the muffled screams that seemed to come from it. We kept staring at each other, and I finally snapped out of my paralysis. I ran as fast as possible, stumbling a few times. I didn't know if the thing was following me, and I had no desire to turn around and check. I managed to make it to my car and drove home. Once I was parked in my driveway, I broke down and cried. For a week, I couldn't manage to go outside. I was a complete wreck. I couldn't accept the idea that I would probably end up like my aunt. I really thought about calling the police, but I knew they'd just think I was completely crazy. I haven't been able to go back into the forest since then. And even when I'm next to a wooded area, I feel like I'm being watched. I still don't know exactly what I encountered, and I don't plan on going back to find out. Even though, for a moment, I seriously thought about going back there, to try to kill the creature. But I didn't want to end up like my Aunt Elsa. Later, my aunt's old Victorian house was destroyed by a forest fire. At that moment, I had hoped that the creature had been killed in the fire. But when I turned on the television to watch the news the next morning, 3 children had been kidnapped during the night. According to the reporter, the police were puzzled. No fingerprints, no DNA, nothing. And, of course, all they had been able to find was the slimy substance.